Welcome to number 2 in the Object Matrix series, where we interview one of our amazing partners from around the world. And today is Rodrigo Sauvalle. Got that right, did I?
Good. Yeah, you did.
From VGL in Chile.
Buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Oh, sí French. soy poco cansado.
I know everybody is actually with this kind of scenario. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I guess getting straight into that, it's lockdown isn't designed for the likes of you and I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, we're used to go out and have lunches and dinners and traveling and all that, and suddenly you find yourself secluded within your own space, and even you like your space, you find it like kind of it constricts you, you know, it's tights you up. And yeah, I miss going out, of course.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get on to that a bit later. So first off, who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
Well, my name is Rod, just to put it easy for everybody. I work at VGL, which is a reseller in Chile with large, vast and extended experience. And I've been working here for the last 15 years.
Wow.
So I can you can see I stick. I'm not a millennial, that's for sure.
There you go. Well, you've almost got the beard for that, but
yeah, but we do all kinds of integrations, working in several markets: broadcast, telecommunications, government, education, the whole lot. And basically, our focus is on integration, and that's what we do basically, with vast knowledge on techie stuff and commercial side as well.
Is it mainly media, or do you dabble in other markets?
It's mainly media, but we're focusing on other markets as well, related to media, such as entertainment. So we do theaters, we do live venues, and we do concerts, and we do all those tech gadgets and gizmos that all those people in music use every day for touring and all that. So I think we're quite spread around the different sort of markets.
Yeah, I guess obviously we have our joint customer as well in the university side of things. So there's education as well as
yeah, it's actually very important. We have more than 50 universities as client of ours, and all of them integrated different sorts of solutions from software to hardware, and very active these days with remote classrooms, and all those requirements are actually in place today. So very, very vast market structure for us.
Okay, so slightly different question. What's your favorite rugby team?
Wales, of course. Wales. Let's go, Dragon.
It's a bit of a leading question, really, because I guess I wanted to ask you, how do you get into the career you have? And obviously you've done a bit of traveling, and you've worked on a few places that might be familiar to our UK.
Yeah. I mean, how did
you get into it?
I was raised in a British school here in Chile. I was privileged enough to be raised in a private education, and this British school is very. We were divided by groups for sports, and I was red, Wales, yay! And I defended red for 12 years. So I have a. Let's say my heart, it tends to go red every time, and I remember when I was young and I was taught about rugby rules. There was a very famous Welsh rugby team that was, up there, number one all over, playing with New Zealand and beating New Zealand at the time. I believe it was in the 70s. I can't remember probably.
Yeah, it'd be the 70s. It's the decade that we were fantastic, but I was too young to
enjoy. We had this film that was we used to watch, and there were rugby techniques done by these players. So I grew watching that.
Okay,
you know?
Cool.
It was funny, and I have to say, the headmaster of my school was a former rugby player, and he was in the Welsh team as well. He was a flanker, number 6. Pete Lacey, yeah.
That's random. I have to share this with my global Welsh friends as well. You did a spell in the UK as well, right?
Yeah, I after years of moving from law school to media school, I ended up having my master's degree in Brighton at Brighton University. So I was living in Brighton for a year. I did my master's in 1 year instead of two, and then my internship started at the BBC
Yeah.
News Round. And after a week, they decided to hire me. So I stayed working for the BBC for a year, maybe 2 years, and then came back to Chile after 9/11. So it was a complex time on that, around that time.
Yeah, I guess then you found VGL and you haven't looked back.
Yeah, I mean, I worked for a Swiss company for doing video analysis, and then I found VGL 2005, and then I've been there since.
So what's your role specifically?
My role is I'm in charge of strategic accounts. I work with major broadcasters and important universities here in Chile. And my role is to sell the whole line of products that VGL offer around this specific market, which is basically broadcasters and nationwide covering broadcasters.
Okay. And in that 15 years, what do you reckon has been the sort of 2 or 3 biggest technological changes that affected your market where you work?
I would say first and most of all, it's what the new business model called OTT has brought us into, which means basically traditional television is going down and new ways of acquiring and delivering content are in place. And for that matter, I would say the way television is facing challenges never seen before, and for some would say correctly that television as it was is dying, and television as it should be is rising. That is one. Then I would say post-production. I remember when I was studying in media school, I was able to have the last year of AB rolls, and I was working on those machines to edit,
really?
with 2 tapes and all that. And then
don't look old enough, Rod.
Yeah. And the first 2 avid media composers came into this university. I would say like 120 grand each at the time, and we had 2. So we started to know about avid.
That's amazing, isn't it? Given that there's a free version now that a lot of people are sort of picking up.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You can go and edit online for free using software as a service. Yeah. And 20, 25 years ago, you think about that, and you were still doing AB roll and getting these editors for 100 grand. That's ridiculous how it changed. Yeah, it's been amazing. And the other thing that actually amazes me a lot is how bandwidth has sort of exploded. I mean, bandwidth gives you and me the opportunity to sell storage, for instance, and the amount of bandwidth available to edit and craft pieces of material that were unthinkable of, like 8K, 16K now. I don't know where this is going.
Bandwidth on the internal network, sort of the internal fabric.
And also for distributing. I think about 5G and what it would do for everybody as it becomes massive thing, and how you would able to retrieve content.
Once they've stopped it giving us coronavirus.
Yeah, well, it won't stop us from having these chats. But imagine that, how distribution, how processing, how in terms of processing, I'm involved in a vast large of projects where actually we're discussing 8K like it was bread and butter. Years ago, you wouldn't think about that.
Yeah, I think, I came from the telecoms background, and working on wireless and sort of internet-y things way back when. And I've seen all of the promises around 3G and 4G and now 5G, and it's still in the UK. There are spots you can't get decent coverage. So I think absolutely it improves it in the cities that are connected, and if we can afford it as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, in countries such as mine, it's even more difficult. We're very long and narrow, and I know a place in the southern part of Chile where you don't even get a decent TV signal from satellite. because the curvature of the earth, and it's very complicated to get television there. Imagine getting there some sort of connectivity.
So I guess that's the point, isn't it? I mean, it's great to have comms, but I think we take comms for granted because we generally, well, you and I both live or work in major cities, so we kind of have it. But especially with working from home at the moment, I think people are finding out that their domestic broadband doesn't cut it when you've got 2 teenagers, your partner, and everyone in the entire village hammering the same lines.
Sometimes it's complicated to get connectivity in big cities. Imagine away from cities, it's even more complicated. But what triggers me the most over there is just how people are getting used to have good connectivity, and they expect much more content faster than before, with a sense of instancy that is never seen before, and that is something that broadcasters are having a difficult time to cope up with.
Well, I think that's I mean, that's evident on comms and the infrastructure behind broadcast. So, I've got both my boys, they're downloading something on the Xbox, we're trying to work and do Zoom meetings, and they'll come in and say, Dad, it's not going fast enough. Can you get in touch with BT? And BT say, you've got the fastest you can get. That's all you can have. It's like explaining that to people who are used to this on-demand, self-serving, I want it now environment is incredible. Different question for you. You've been in sales a reasonable amount of time. Has anything materially changed in time in terms of how you sell in your region? And a bit of a sub-question to that, because we've noticed it with you guys and our friends in Argentina and Colombia as well. Is the attitude towards OPEX and managed services changing, or how long will CapEx live as the main medium for buying stuff in your territory?
First of all, we are a total different culture from Europe and the US in terms of business. I'm not going to focus on language and all that, but in terms of business, yes, we have different approach in doing business, and of course, we need to be more convinced. We are reluctant to swallow the blue pill. I would say if we were in the Matrix, we would never take that pill. No. But yeah, it's different. We have a different approach, and we try to. OPEX was something that belonged to the devil, and now we are being forced to look into that, because everything is becoming a service, and that would say is the biggest challenge for us all over here, to understand how the service would be even better, to have the machine that you can touch, that you can feel, that you can actually plug, and you know where this cable comes in and where it comes out, and the reliability on that. That set of mind, it's something that it's taken a little bit long to push into the industry, not into the consumer. The consumer is just, give it to me. I want the service. Yeah. But the industry is there's a short circuit there. I mean, there's an understanding by the market, but the industry still relies on this sort of technologies. In fact, in Chile, we're still installing HD TV along the country, and we haven't finished that. But you have the consumers, working on services already, and the transition is very slow. And for companies such as yours, or even bigger companies such as, I don't know, Avid or Grass Valley or Harmonic, who are going heavily into services, it's complicated. They say, I want to see my media in a disc. I'm not sure where that disc, my media is. I have issues with that. And of course, being so far away from major data centers, the cost of having services, it's complicated. Think about the conversion from pounds to pesos here in Chile. It's huge. It's almost 1 pound is 1,000 pesos. So it's beyond reach. And even dollar now, with all this, the dollar is going up with all these things that are going on. So it's even more expensive for us to pay for something as a recurrent thing than to have something in place, it works. And because support contracts can be, left aside for a year, and then I will come back into that. and we managed to play with that, even though we're always pushing us in VGL to renew the contract. It's a major task. It's running a marathon. It's not a 100-meter dash or a 100-meter. It's a marathon, and it's for some people it's very complicated to understand. And of course budgets are even smaller than in the US or Europe. And even though you would say Latin America has probably the two largest media companies in Televisa and Global, those are two exceptions. The rest of us work with companies that are working for each peso, each penny, each single dollar per month. And on top of that, the industry is suffering with this content as a service by Netflix or Amazon Prime that is driven the consumption of media consumption all over the world. So I would say it's even more complicated. So to have a strategy in that area, it's always been tough.
Yeah, I guess patience is something you need to learn if you're going to sell into Latin America. If you're from Europe, that's for sure. That's our experience. I think without amazing partners like yourselves, you and Pancho and the gang, it would be impossible, I would say, to sell into that market and fully understand the nuances of how you interact with
but
people.
there's a trend that in major companies, I don't know, I won't give a name on this because I don't want to finger someone, but companies are saying, if we have services, why should we require the services of an intermediate to access the final client? But then again, we come back to the cultural thing that I was talking to you about at the beginning, is we need someone to know the culture, to know the way they do business, to understand their history, to understand where they are in order to be able to sell the basic stuff, and then move into a more complex scenario, trying to sell services that are not going to be seen, but into a button when you press a computer, when you use a computer. So it's complicated to move from a data center that you can actually see and touch and say, I'm in love with my data center, than saying, well, I don't see a data center, I have an office. This is impossible for me,
Sit back and have a coffee, So actually leading into that, what sort of 3 technologies or services, if you like, then will you be recommending to your clients in the next period as being important to them?
I would say that in terms of, let's talk about our business. I would happily go into a constant revenue service. Okay, meaning delivering something that is needed that would provide a constant revenue and not just going from one project to another with lapses in between. Because the industry today is very harsh, and you don't get to survive in those lapses. If you have a constant revenue, that is something. So services.
So do you think there is a market then in Chile and the broadcast and media market for managed storage services that isn't public cloud, or both?
It's a challenge, but the good thing is it's a challenge because the connectivity to the cloud is expensive. Dedicated access to that cloud, still around countries such as mine, Argentina, and Peru and Bolivia, are different for regular connectivity. So you have international access, and that international access is too expensive. It's unpayable. You can't. So you have to rely on local data centers. The good thing is that Google is opening a data center here, and Amazon will soon. Actually, the closest data center is in Brazil. So we have to go to Brazil to get our media back. So we have to, go 3,000-4,000 kilometers away to store media. That is ridiculous. We need to develop something that.
I think there's also a danger there where, unless you have something local, then if someone in charge of Brazil or the US might be a nutter and they decide to impose taxes on data coming in and out of the country, then you're double screwed. So it's an interesting point. So you think is that something that you're sort of planning on, is looking at managed services around storage and workflow for the market?
I would say when you have service delivery, you also have to have a support service for that definition, because because you need to offer business continuity, and therefore your support team has to change and to have a different perspective in terms of operational support, but not in a way that, oh, my shared storage it's broken, let me go and fix you, no problem. It's like I'm having a service that it's delivering content to 500,000 people. You need to be there and be responsible of that service to be constant.
Yeah.
And that is a major task, because you have to appoint people in a way that requires instant. You need to be instant. You need to be fast. You need to deliver fast, and the way you deliver services, it's critical. So I would say that, and also you need to be more efficient. You need to optimize, and without having lower cost of connectivity, these services, it's complicated to have that. So we need to somehow create the need for local services, whether it is an OTT, whether it is storage as a service or editing as a service, wherever it is, you need to support that. Since media is reaching people beyond our zone of comfort, meaning you and I have worked with psychologists to deliver a very nice project that we did. Yeah. They don't have a clue about media. How do you support that as a service?
You can't. And good luck contacting any of the major cloud providers if you have to have a workflow question. Never mind that level of discussion.
No way.
No. Alrighty, I've got one more question, I think. Right, how do you say those 3 words? The first one, please.
Ernst.
Say it again.
Ernst. The second one, I don't know. The first one is hard. It's complicated.
Number 2.
Not a clue. Launched.
Come on. Okay, that's number 1. What's number 2?
Penny bond.
Whoa, that's bang on the money. Last one. Pressure's on.
Arbeitszeit.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, thing to remember, and anyone else watching this who's going to be interviewed soon, is a double L in Welsh is a sound. So, LLanrwst.
LLanrwst.
There you go. And that's a village in North Wales that one of my very best friends comes from. Penabont is Welsh for Bridgend, which is where I come from. And the last one is Aberystwyth.
Aberystwyth.
There you go. That's on the west coast of Wales. It's where I went to university. It's where Prince Charles went to university, if you're into royally type things. It is where Taron Egerton comes from. Okay, so there you go. Hey, listen, thanks very much for taking time to do this. I really appreciate it. I think it's really interesting for people to understand that selling internationally isn't just the same as sort of going over to your nearest neighbor and just applying the same model and applying the same culture. You know, when you sell into France, there's a different culture. When you sell into Chile, and I think I found most interesting was the arrogance that we had initially, that, you know, you guys would just sell our stuff because we met you at a trade show. And I think that the moment we actually got off our asses to come to Chile and sit in front of customers with you and engaged you and engage your customers, that's when our relationship kicked off. So I think that people are naive if they think that selling internationally doesn't mean getting on a plane and visiting people and understanding their culture and having dinner and drinks and stuff. So I'd like to thank you for your support that you've given us over the years. Hopefully we'll all come out of this crazy period soon and in a decent state. And I can't wait for my next 24-hour door-to-door trip to Santiago.
Yeah, let's hope for that, and let's hope as well for us to visit you over there and get to you.
You'll do a visit, my friend.
Yeah, I know.
Send someone else, but you'll do a visit.
Yeah, I know. I will try as soon as possible, I promise.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about how we and our fantastic channel partners can help you implement your strategic goals to implement remote working, business continuity, private, local or hybrid cloud environments, please do get in touch. We'd be delighted to speak with you. In the meantime, take care, stay safe. Diolch.